A man stops to help after a motorcycle crash, only to realize the woman he saved had already lost everything that day. What happens next will remind you how hope finds us in the darkest moments. Before we dive into this emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, and turn on notifications. Stories like this one? They're why we're here, and we've got more coming your way. The crash. The rain came down in sheets, turning the highway into a slick, shimmering black ribbon under the dim glow of streetlights. Ethan Cole tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his knuckles whitening as his pickup truck hydroplaned for a split second before regaining traction. The wipers thumped furiously against the windshield, struggling to keep up. He exhaled slowly, his breath fogging the glass. Another long day at the shop. Another night driving home alone. His auto repair business was bleeding money, 3 months behind on rent, customers trickling away to the chain garage across town. The foreclosure notice sat folded in his wallet like a lead weight. He hadn't told anyone. Not his brother, who kept texting to check in. Not his ex-wife, who'd left when the late nights and unpaid bills became too much. Some failures were better carried in silence. Movement. A flash of chrome and red in his peripheral vision. A motorcycle, swerving violently as its back tire lost traction on the wet asphalt. Ethan's stomach lurched as the bike fishtailed, the rider fighting for control, until the pavement won. The motorcycle skidded sideways, flipping once before slamming into the guardrail with a metallic scream. The rider, small, helmeted, was thrown like a rag doll, landing hard on the shoulder of the road. Ethan didn't think. He jerked the wheel, tires screeching as he pulled over. Gravel crunched under his boots as he sprinted toward the wreck. The bike's engine hissed, smoke curling from the twisted frame. The rider wasn't moving. Hey, can you hear me? Ethan dropped to his knees, his hands hovering, afraid to touch. The helmet's visor was cracked, obscuring the face inside. A gloved hand twitched. Alive. Carefully, he unbuckled the helmet and lifted it free. A woman. Late 20s, dark hair plastered to her forehead with sweat and rain. A thin trail of blood ran from her temple down to her jaw. Her eyes fluttered open, wide, disoriented, then flooded with something worse than pain. Despair. Just leave me here, she whispered, her voice raw. Ethan blinked. Not help me. Not call 911. Leave me here. The hell I will. He slid an arm under her shoulders, ignoring her weak protest as he hauled her upright. She cried out when her leg took weight. Broken? Sprained? But he didn't stop. The rain was freezing. The highway was dark. No other cars had passed. He half carried her to his truck, bundling her into the passenger seat. She slumped against the window, her breath fogging the glass in shallow bursts. Ethan grabbed the emergency blanket from his back seat, draping it over her. That's when he saw it, a USB drive, its casing blackened as if burned, half fallen from her jacket pocket. He picked it up. The label, barely legible, Mom's last photos. His throat tightened. This wasn't just a crash. Something else had happened today. Something worse. The woman, Lena, he'd learn later, turned her face away as if ashamed to be seen. Ethan hesitated, then tucked the drive back into her pocket. Questions could wait. Keys in the ignition. Heat blasting. He pulled onto the road, the wipers beating time like a frantic heart. In the silence, the radio crackled to life with a news bulletin. Fire crews still on scene at the Maple Heights apartments. Arson is suspected. Lena made a sound like a wounded animal. Ethan's hands clenched the wheel. He didn't ask. He didn't need to. The pieces were there, the soot on her clothes, the USB, the hollow look in her eyes. He stepped on the gas. The hospital was 12 minutes away. Somewhere in the storm, a siren began to wail. The unspoken storm. The emergency room buzzed with the chaotic energy of a typical Friday night. Nurses rushing between curtained bays, the sharp scent of antiseptic cutting through the stale air, the occasional groan of pain from a nearby patient. Ethan hovered near the intake desk, his damp flannel shirt clinging to his shoulders as he gave Lena's information to a tired-looking clerk. Asterisk, Lena Reyes. Motorcycle accident on F5. Possible leg injury, head trauma. The clerk typed without looking up. And you are? Ethan hesitated. Just the guy who found her. A hand touched his elbow. He turned to see Lena sitting stiffly in a wheelchair, her face pale under the fluorescent lights. A young nurse with a tight ponytail stood behind her, gripping the handles. They're taking me back now, Lena said quietly. Her voice was flat, drained. You don't have to stay. Ethan shifted his weight. He should leave. He had his own problems. The shop, the debt, the fact that he hadn't eaten since breakfast. But something in her hollow stare pinned him in place. I'll wait, he said. Lena's jaw tightened, but she didn't argue. The nurse wheeled her away, the double doors swinging shut behind them. 2 hours passed. Ethan paced the waiting room, flipping through a tattered magazine without reading it. His phone buzzed, another text from his brother, Marcus? You coming tomorrow? Dad's asking. Ethan thumbed a reply without thinking. Yeah. Sure. A lie. He hadn't visited his father in weeks. The old man's Alzheimer's was getting worse, and every visit left Ethan feeling like he was mourning someone who was still technically alive. A voice snapped him back to the present. Mr. Cole? The nurse from earlier stood in front of him, her expression unreadable. She's refusing treatment. Ethan frowned. What? She won't let us do the X-ray. Says she can't pay for it. The nurse lowered her voice. Look, I recognize her from the news. Her apartment burned down this morning. Arson. She lost everything. The words landed like a punch. Ethan glanced toward the treatment area, where Lena sat on the edge of a hospital bed, her arms wrapped around herself. Let me talk to her, he said. Lena didn't look up when he entered. You're still here, she muttered. Yeah. Ethan leaned against the wall, arms crossed. Heard you're giving the doctors a hard time. I don't need their help. Your leg's probably broken. I'll live. Ethan exhaled sharply. What's really going on? For the first time, Lena met his eyes. Hers were red-rimmed, furious. You want to know what's really going on? Today, some asshole torched my building. My laptop, with 3 years of work, my camera gear, and the one thing I managed to grab. She yanked the burnt USB drive from her pocket and threw it at him. This. Useless. Ethan caught it. The plastic was warped, the port scorched. Your mom's photos, he said softly. Lena's breath hitched. She died 6 months ago. Cancer. Those were the last pictures I had of her. Silence settled between them. The heart monitor beeped in the next bay. Ethan turned the drive over in his hands. Maybe it's not all gone. What? Data can sometimes be recovered, even from burnt drives. Lena stared at him. Why are you doing this? He didn't have an answer. At least, not one he could put into words. Just get the damn X-ray, he said. I'll figure out the rest. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then, slowly she lay back on the bed. Fine. Ethan nodded and turned to leave. Ethan. He paused. Thank you, she whispered. He didn't look back. Don't mention it. Outside, the rain had stopped. The parking lot glistened under the streetlights. Ethan pulled out his phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in over a year. His ex-wife answered on the third ring. Ethan. Her voice was wary. What's wrong? Hey Jess, he said. I need a favor. Fragments of hope. The diner smelled of burnt coffee and bacon grease, the kind of place where the vinyl booths had split seams and the waitresses called everyone hon. Ethan slid into a corner booth, the USB drive heavy in his pocket. Across from him, Lena picked at a stack of pancakes she hadn't touched. The hospital had discharged her with a temporary brace for her sprained knee and a prescription for painkillers she refused to fill. You should eat something, Ethan said. Lena pushed the syrup away. Not hungry. A waitress refilled their coffees without asking. The liquid was black as oil, steaming. Ethan wrapped his hands around the mug, letting the heat seep into his palms. He'd called Jess from the parking lot, voice low, explaining what he needed. There'd been a long silence on the line before she answered. You know I don't do data recovery anymore. I know. And you know why. He did. The late nights, the migraines, the way she'd started seeing corrupted files in her dreams. It was why she'd quit her tech job, why she'd left him. Too many broken things to fix. Asterisk please, he'd said, the word unfamiliar on his tongue. It's important. Now, sitting across from Lena, he wondered if he'd made a mistake. Lena's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then shoved it away. My landlord wants to know if I'm coming back for my deposit. Her laugh was sharp, brittle. Like there's anything left to deposit. Ethan studied her, the way her fingers trembled around the coffee cup, the dark circles under her eyes. He recognized that look. It wasn't just grief. It was the hollowed-out exhaustion of someone who'd been running on fumes long before the crash. My brother died on a bike, he said suddenly. Lena froze. Not like yours. No accident. Kia. Ethan traced a crack in the Formica table. He was messing around with painkillers after a back injury. Took too many one night. Gone before the ambulance got there. Lena's breath caught. I'm sorry. Ethan shrugged, the motion tighter than he intended. Point is, when I saw you on that road, I couldn't just drive by. The diner's door jingled. Jess walked in, her blonde hair pulled into a messy bun, a laptop bag slung over one shoulder. She spotted them and hesitated, then squared her shoulders and approached. Ethan stood. Jess, this is Lena. Lena's my ex-wife, Jess finished, sliding into the booth. She set the laptop on the table with a thud. Let's see this drive. Lena's eyes widened. She fumbled the USB from her pocket, the scorched plastic catching the light. Jess took it, turning it over with a technician's detached curiosity. Burnt pretty good, she muttered. But the chip might be intact. She plugged it into a small adapter, then into her laptop. The screen flickered to life, lines of code scrolling rapidly. Lena leaned forward, her knuckles white on the table edge. Ethan watched her face, the hope there, fragile as a match flame. The laptop beeped. A red error message flashed. Jess cursed under her breath. It's corrupted. Badly. Lena sank back, her face closing off. It's fine. I figured. Wait. Jess's fingers flew over the keys. There's something here. The screen glitched. A single folder appeared, labeled I. Inside, 3 files. Only one was intact, a JPEG. Jess double-clicked it. The photo loaded in fragments, first a blur of color, then the curve of a cheek, finally resolving into a woman's face. She was laughing, caught mid-motion, sunlight filtering through trees behind her. Lena made a sound like she'd been punched. That's her. Her fingers hovered over the screen, not quite touching. That was her birthday. We went to the coast. She hated the sand, but her voice broke. Jess quietly slid the laptop closer to Lena. I can try to recover more, but... Lena shook her head, tears spilling over. This is enough. Ethan looked away, giving her privacy. Through the diner window, dawn was breaking, pale gold light cutting through the grime. Jess met his eyes across the table, her expression unreadable. You did good, Cole, she said quietly. He didn't answer. The weight in his chest had nothing to do with debt or failing businesses. Somewhere between the crash and this moment, things had shifted. Lena wiped her face with her sleeve. Thank you, she said, her voice raw. Both of you. Jess shut the laptop. Don't thank me yet. That drive's toast. But... She hesitated. I know a guy at a forensic recovery lab. If you want to try for the rest. Lena looked at the photo again, her mother's smile frozen in pixels. Then she squared her shoulders. Yeah, she said. I do. Ethan nodded, reaching for his wallet. Then let's go. Outside, the morning air was crisp, sharp with promise. For the first time in months, Ethan felt like he could breathe. What rises from ash? The forensic lab smelled like ozone and burnt coffee, the hum of servers filling the sterile white room. Lena sat stiffly in a plastic chair, her hands clenched around the armrests as the technician, a wiry man named Raj with dark circles under his eyes, connected the damaged USB to a massive recovery array. This will take time, Raj warned, adjusting his glasses. The fire damaged the NAND chip. If the data's still there, it's fragmented beyond normal recovery. Ethan leaned against the wall, watching Lena's profile. She hadn't slept. He could see it in the way her eyelids fluttered, the slight tremor in her fingers. Jess had left an hour ago with a promise to call, but not before pulling Ethan aside. "You're in deep on this one, Cole," she'd murmured. "Just remember, you can't fix everything." The monitor flickered. Raj exhaled sharply. "Got something?" Lena was on her feet in an instant. The screen displayed a cascading list of file fragments, corrupted but recognizable. Photo thumbnails blinked in and out like ghosts. "Can you save them?" Lena's voice was barely audible. Raj's fingers danced across the keyboard. "Some yet, others, too far gone." He isolated a cluster of files. "These have partial recovery potential." A progress bar appeared. 1%, 5%. Ethan's phone buzzed. Marcus again. He silenced it. The lab fell quiet except for the whirring of cooling fans. Lena stood motionless, her reflection ghostly in the dark monitor. The ding. The first photo loaded. Grainy, discolored, but unmistakable, Lena as a teenager, grinning with her arms around her mother in front of an amusement park ride. Lena gasped. One by one, the images appeared. Some were intact, others showed only fragments. A hand, the corner of a smile, a sliver of sky. Each one made Lena's breath hitch. Raj worked silently, stitching together what he could. After an hour, they had 17 photos recovered, 17 pieces of a life Lena thought she'd lost forever. She turned to Ethan, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you." He swallowed hard. "Don't mention it." 2 weeks later, Ethan's auto shop looked different in the morning light. The closed sign still hung crookedly in the window, but the garage doors were open, letting in the crisp autumn air. Inside, Lena knelt on the concrete floor, painting the far wall a soft cream color. "You sure about this?" Ethan asked, handing her a fresh roller. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a streak of paint. "Positive. This back room is perfect, good light, plenty of space." The plan had formed slowly. Lena's story had gone viral after a local news segment. The fire, the motorcycle crash, the photo recovery. Donations poured in. And when she mentioned turning part of Ethan's struggling shop into a community art space for trauma survivors, the response overwhelmed them both. Second exposure, she'd called it. The place where people could rebuild what they thought was lost. Ethan watched her work, something warm unfolding in his chest. For the first time in years, the shop didn't feel like a tomb. His phone rang. Marcus. He almost ignored it, then answered. "Hey, you coming today or what?" Marcus's voice was gruff but warm. "Dad's asking for you." Ethan glanced at Lena. She smiled, nodding toward the door. "Go. I've got this." He hesitated, then grabbed his keys. "Yeah, I'm coming." If this story reminded you that hope can rise from the ashes, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life moments of resilience. Who inspires you to keep going? Tag them in the comments below, and don't forget to share this story with someone who needs it today.